Chapter 63, The Escaping Dream. Inside LeBron's chamber, Michael found nothing but Persian carpets, marble statues, and a treasure trove of every sex paraphernalia imaginable, all scattered about. On one corner there were a bed of pillows, just pillows stacked up high all the way up to a man's waistline. Well, looky who we got here. Mr. Fast-walking, shit-talking, ain't no stopping, biggest and baddest mofo that ever graced these streets. Michael Madboy Connelly, said LeBron like some announcer, but also somewhat mockingly. Can't really tell though, considering LeBron has always had a very dry sense of humor, and just dry personality all around. Well, whatever. You better not be talking shit now. I don't have the patience for it. As Michael got a better fix on him, he saw a bald-headed man with a beard as big and thick as U.S. steel. He looked like John Henry covered in drapes of solid gold. He was a silky, smooth walking and talking man, now fitted decadent enough to pose as a Persian king, or Shah as they would put it. LeBron had his head cocked to one side and he was smoking something toxic out of an old Sherlock Holmes pipe. Every time he puffed, a cloud of black smoke rose up into the air, and it looked like it wanted to start raining something purple. I don't hate the man, but then again I don't exactly like him either. And I know that's pretty much how he feels about me, or did back in the day, mostly because of LaToya. Back around the time I started dating Nikki, LaToya and I were just friends, but we had been together, though, and had done it. And it was at that time her mom kicked her out, and I think she was 17 at the time. Her mom really didn't like her, seeing how LaToya had a way with a lot of the boys, and her mom was one of those seeing evil everywhere, puritanical types. The world is evil and going to hell, and so is her daughter that ain't no virgin no more, and you know the story. Well, LaToya wasn't very good at being independent, too, so she took residency here at a low cost. Ader was still around at the time, or had passed away by then. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, by that point, this place was practically a bordello considering the way LeBron was running it. And even though he didn't pressure her into the lifestyle, he didn't exactly help her out in any other ways either. The place still cost rent, and LaToya was terrible at being independent, as mentioned, and holding a job. After a while, LeBron started giving her alternatives of how she could come up with the money fast, and I told her not to do it, told her not to, and she didn't listen. Although the money she had made then paid her way through nursing college at the time, although it also introduced her to this type of lifestyle, and I can understand how she eventually got tempted back. Fucking Boom at the time had a thing for her, but she didn't have a thing for him. I had confronted him at the time, and at the time I said something to him and all his nymphos that I'm pretty sure it was then spread amongst them, considering how they started acting up around me afterwards. I said to him, why don't you people actually try loving your women instead of being all like Ike Turner, just using them to, yeah, I took it there. And I can only imagine how LeBron and the rest of the nymphos felt about it, although we've been cool still, but we've also been treading on eggshells whenever we around each other ever since. You know, she's a lucky girl. She called me from a phone booth on 65th Street in Central Park West and wanted someone to come pick her up. When my boys found her, she was freezing in a nearby alley dressed the way she was, with barely a trench coat to hang on to, while holding an AK, explained LeBron. Yeah, well, it's a good thing she's here now. Thanks for picking her up. I was afraid back there that she might have entered Central Park, responded Michael, trying to show lots and lots of gratitude. Lots. Yup, said LeBron as he took another puff from his piece. So how you been? Asked Michael, smiling at the Xerxes of Harlem. Not bad, Michael. Except for being a slow night with everyone all raping and murdering each other in the streets, mentioned LeBron. Yeah, replied Michael with one giant exhale. Then silence. Awkward silence, mind you. Hey, when did Ader pass? Asked Michael, since he didn't know what else to say. And LeBron didn't respond. Actually sort of curious now since I thought about him and LeBron here. They did have a bit of a father and son thing going on. Ader was just such an open and loving man, but alright if it's like that then. And then Nicky stepped inside, and even with all that had crossed his mind since entering Central Park and since making his way up here to LeBron's chamber, Michael felt thrilled to see her again. See her safe. It was a relief. And for a moment there, it felt like the mixed feelings he had weren't going to start flooding his mind as he feared they would. But even though it was relief to see her safe, Michael cringed up a bit, seeing how worn down and beaten up the whole night's experience had been on her. She still seemed to have too many bad chemicals racing through her, plus with the sweats, it all made her look like the ghost of a smack addict. Her skin was dead white, covered in cold sweat, and her black eyeshadow had spread over her eyes and across her face vertically like fault lines. Her eyes had become a chasm of danger and despair, pitiful, yet still the definition of beauty to Michael nonetheless. She looked like a horror show, but there was still something graceful in the mangy and maniacal and melancholic look she had. "So what did Mr. Parsley have to say?" asked Nicky, with eyes shivering and waiting intently for the word. And as she asked that question, the flood doors then cracked open some, all to Michael's dismay. "Who is he? And how do you know him?" asked Michael as he narrowed his eyes onto her. Nicky looked hesitant to answer. She glared at Michael dishearteningly, then disengaged, and then walked quietly towards a telephone placed on a stand. "He said something about a deal and wanting the codes," mentioned Michael rhetorically. "Yeah, okay," responded Nicky, all expressionless while looking away. Michael grew irritated taking such a pathetic response as the flood doors cracked open a bit more. Nicky was practically blowing him off, which made Michael feel like some mook that was supposedly undeserving to get a straight answer. "Nicky, what do the Oubliés want with the codes, and why are you now working with them?" "Michael, please. Let's just try to get through this night in one piece, and it'll be all better in the morning, I promise," expressed Nicky, as she eyed Michael like he was some child, incapable of understanding such adult matters. "Oh, so we're back to this again, huh?" "No, you please," busted out Michael, a little childishly, but feeling like he deserved better. Nicky looked sorely up at Michael and then back to the phone. "I know I had absolutely no business in all this until just recently, but I'm part of it now, and I think I deserve a straight answer." Nicky sighed, shook her head, and began to speak. "You know, Michael, me and Madboy have been in a lot of stuff together over the last decade. Most of the details involving things I'd rather not even think about, let alone speak." "Go on," encouraged Michael as he looked at LeBron, who also seemed intrigued and somewhat involved. "Okay, what part do you have in all this? Fuck, better not be any more surprises." "Michael, I want to say this." And then she paused and stared straight into Michael's eyes, grew a compassionate smile, and Michael now felt like he was going to get some truth out of her. Or her trying to manipulate. Out of all the ideas we've had, me and Tony, the only one I can think of that I actually liked was the idea that one day we'd have enough money to get away from all this and retire in Tahiti, peacefully. Nicky looked at Michael and smiled again, beamishly now, and Michael sensed something longing in her for what she was saying. Her face opened up a bit like clouds, opening up to show sunlight, showing things she had in her heart with radiance, and then continued. "Really, it was Tony's dream first, but it was one that I gladly shared, and the only thing I ever gladly shared with him." Nicky then rolled her eyes and had a maniacal look on her face, as if to express a distaste for everything else she wasn't willing to mention. "No, I'm not going to be thinking about her and him like that. Not happening. Now, I want my Tahiti, and I'll tell you what else I want." "What's that?" asked Michael, beginning to feel also a bit beamish himself. "I think I now want you there with me." And then all of a sudden, Michael felt moods shifting, truly shifting, along with worlds, as everything began to grow otherworldly, grow ethereal, grow magical, which had Michael first feeling very hesitant. No, don't do this. Don't stir me up like this. Not if it's not you, the one doing it. And it's really, you, I know, deserve that as much as I do. I can only imagine how badly things have been for you. Don't, really don't. I'm sorry, Michael, that I haven't been there for you since you went in. I'm sorry I didn't continue what we had." And then those scary feelings started stirring up as Michael glanced down at his mitts that were crying, now out for her blood. No, Stop telling me she's lying to me to manipulate me. No. I think she means this. No, I'm not going to attack her now. Nikki then walked over to Michael and placed her hand over his heart and said, You deserve this, Michael. We deserve this. Deep down, Michael was hoping for her to do this again, hoping for what it would then make him feel. Yes, give me the resolution I needed. I need it bad right now. For Michael didn't want to continue feeling how he had been. Michael's heart then began racing as Nikki smiled, taking notice. What does this smile mean? Is it genuine or not? And then Michael got a glimpse into that transcendent world, stepping out of his mortal self and seeing things truly as they were, seeing how Nikki did want him back, did want this, and did want him there with her in Tahiti. This is real, these feelings are real, they're not fake. And the world that was opening to him was a future. Please let it be, please. Something he hadn't felt or understood in a very, very, very long time. The thought of a tropical paradise was almost unimaginable for him, since he had never imagined it. But now it was, and it made sense, like a dream. I do want this, I think I do want this. It felt warm, it felt good, but also too good. Too much like a dream, distant, too distant, otherworldly even, and to the point it was a world Michael didn't belong in. As much as Michael wanted it, the feeling was too new and too small, like a small spark which Michael found himself unknowing what to do to keep it from burning out. Michael didn't even know how to fathom the idea of a tropical paradise somewhere in the Pacific, laying on a beach staring out into the sea and feeling pleasantly lost in its eternity. Even though he had always had the infinity for the open seas, this was something beyond him. It's too much like a dream. Too much. And now I got that South Pacific song playing in my head again. A place like that isn't possible, is it? And now it started feeling like a movie. Something he'd sit and watch, watching other people experience and never him. And as quickly as Nikki's dream had faded into Michael's imagination of that future. No. I want this. Stay there. Let me have this. Can't I even have a simple dream to play out in my own head? It slowly then began to fade out. And now, it was gone. I fucking hate this place. I fucking hate this life. I fucking hate me. The only world that Michael had ever known up until now had been the world of cold brick walls enclosing everything as far as Michael could see, enclosing him from everything else, anything else he might have found more revealing, condemned, crammed in, cold, stuck in this uncomfortable place, clusterfucked by the city living, having to deal with assholes to the left, assholes to the right, assholes, more assholes, and some more assholes right after that. That and the trials and tribulations felt living and dying on the asphalt jungle. Fuck this city, I hate this fucking place. All his life, all he had ever seen was this place, and then also Attica, that fucking place. Being Mr. Lonely Eyes, staring lonely-like out of his jail cell, at nothing but bars to the left, bars to his right, more bars, some more bars, and even more bars right after that. At that place, all alone at that place, waiting, just waiting for something to. I just can't dream, can I? Michael then shrugged, since it was something he was at least used to. Hasn't been that bad though, am I right, Michael? And then felt a sharp sting of emptiness, having him feeling completely hollow to the core, until there was no core in him left anymore, like an empty jar of clay. And now ready to go back to doing what he was meaninglessly doing before, questioning Nikki over matters he wished that didn't matter, questioning her over involvement with the oubliettes. Back to the bullshit, I guess, might as well. Nikki, if you couldn't trust Mr. Dorian, what makes you trust these guys? Nikki practically had the phone in her hand, ready to dial, seeing how she had, probably just manipulated me into that whole thing I just experienced. She was at the stand the phone was at, ready to dial, but then hearing Michael speak out against everything she had just made out made her now grow mad. As she slammed the phone down and began yelling, "Stop it, Michael, stop! Stop thinking! Stop thinking!" Baffled over Michael, wondering why she would ask that. Mr. Dorian is a deranged psychopath. Someone to have good reason not to trust. The oubliettes are the law. They're the only force that actually stood up towards corruption in this city, and they might someday become the future of it. Oh, don't bring politics into this. And that makes them trustworthy? I don't see it, lashed out Michael, remembering the LDCB story. Nikki sighed as her eyes began to flail about in disapproval. Mr. Dorian and the oubliettes aren't together, right? Asked Michael. Nikki then made a face like she had caught a whiff of something that smelled horrible, horribly stupid. Didn't I make that obvious? No, they're not. Nikki rolled her eyes hard as she threw her arms up into the air. Listen, I know I'm just a dumb ex-boxer, ex-thief, ex-con, waste of space to be taken seriously, but even I can tell they're not to be trusted. Why can't you? Nikki then started shaking, looking at Michael in disappointment. Fine, then at least tell me this much. What were you going to get besides money? Protection? Because if they decide they want to blow up that bomb for some reason, you're going to need lots of that. Nikki then smiled condescendingly and then said, well, to start with you. That threw Michael off completely as he came to terms with what the whole thing happening with him, what the oubliettes in Central Park was really all about. You know, they called me to say... Nikki then raised her hand up to her ear in demonstration with her thumb and pinky sticking out, pretending it was a phone. Hey, we got your ex-boyfriend here riding around on a bike calling your name out like an idiot in the middle of Central Park. What do you want us to do with him? And she was obviously being very sassy and sarcastic now, trying her hardest to mock Michael in a childish way she felt he would get, expressing just how stupid the whole ordeal had been and how stupid Michael had been, all to Nikki's impatience. They asked me that to see if I even cared what happened to you. I had to begin begging them not to hurt you. You begged? Michael looked away, really feeling embarrassed now. They also told me from what they had learned that you knew too much. You told them you knew about Mr. Dorian and the bomb. And the codes. And for that, they found you as a liability and a risk. Michael really thought he had been holding his own when they were interrogating him in the woods. Now he felt like a royal moron for thinking so. Me, brains? I guess not. Seriously, Michael? You told them everything that happened? How fucking But then Nikki cut herself off, not wanting to delve into straight-up name-calling. Men like the oubliettes don't take risks, and they wanted me to give them a good reason why they shouldn't take you out and have you stuffed in some nearby dumpster. Nikki finished telling her story, as Michael then felt the smallest and stupidest he had in a while. What did they want in exchange for me? Asked Michael. Almost half of what they were offering back, responded Nikki. You did that all for me, really? At this point, Nikki looked down at Michael and noticed his gloom. Feeling sympathetic, she opened her mouth again to say something reaffirming that would put Michael at ease. Listen, Michael. You're in over your head. Just accept that and don't feel bad. As for the bomb, well, I'll tell you this. They don't want to blow it up. They're not monsters like Mr. Dorian is. All they want to do is use it as a threat against the people at that party to shift around some of the power amongst the high-ups that were there. Okay. Michael sighed. It was all too funny for him, seeing how he thought he was the one saving Nikki, but Nikki had really done much more. But then again, something was still not adding up, and Michael felt drawn to continue questioning her over the matter. So, when did the oubliettes get into the picture? Michael, please, you're not solving anything by... Just answer the question. It's reaffirming, at least for me, to hear you explain everything. Fine. They called me yesterday. Happy now? Asked Nikki, seeming more and more irritated with each question Michael asked. Nikki, seriously stop playing me off as a child, because it also fills me up with the sense that you might be lying to me completely to get me to fall along with... And the funny part was, Michael then sensed within himself he would follow her to the end, no matter what. Yeah, but Nikki, not that. Now another question sparked in Michael's mind, and he knew that this one was going to be the most important one yet, at least for him, since it was a question that would settle a lot of the conflict he was having over her. Nikki, if they told you yesterday about their offer, then why were you making a deal with Mr. Dorian today? Nikki's eyes lit up, bright now, even with no bulbs screwed in. And Michael now knew from the reaction there wasn't going to be any good excuse as to why. Nikki then looked at Michael, looked within herself, sighed a miserable sigh, and then said, Because Mr. Dorian was offering more. Now Michael also had himself a miserable sigh. Also, me and Madboy sort of have a lot of enemies at that building. That's also the reason why Mr. Dorian got us involved and told us about the bomb. Mentioned Nikki, then had a look on her face as if she had gone ahead with too much. So that was the other reason besides money, huh? I don't know what to think. Fuck me, I'm starting to get tired of this conflict. Michael, I was going to be making a big mistake if I had gone on done business with him. I mean, even with all the enemies me and Madboy had in there, I don't want to have that much blood on my hands. I don't want to have any, really. I don't know what I was thinking, so thank you for coming by. Nikki then paused with a queer smirk on her face and doing what you did. Michael then looked up anxiously as Nikki realized what he was now thinking. Well, I don't mean what you did with Madboy, not that. Although, I hope you're still not upset about that. I mean, if they hadn't, I'm pretty sure Mr. Dorian would have had us both killed anyways, me and Tony. And that, or worse, I've heard Mr. Dorian has some connections. I've heard having sex slave operations down in South America. And he probably would have had me sold off to some cigar shop and pimp in Bolivia that likes to break his women in using leeches and razor blades or something. Nikki shuddered at the thought of that and had a faint cringe-worthy laugh while dismissing it. Sex slave operations, leeches? Seriously? Thought Michael as he continued coming to terms with all the mess he had gotten himself involved with getting with Nikki and coming this far. So Michael, now please let me do this so we can finally bring this night to an end. As Nikki picked up the phone and began to dial, Michael pondered over the information he had just received. He wanted to think of something not adding up, because he still felt like the oubliettes couldn't be trusted, no matter what Nikki said. But the more he thought, the more his mind kept drawing up blanks. How Nikki had explained it, it had all sounded crystal clear and clear as day, and Michael felt maybe he shouldn't be looking any deeper into the matter. So what if she gave the oubliettes the codes? What gain would they have in blowing up the building when they can use the bomb the way Nikki described, shifting around power and all? Like Mr. Parsley said himself, you don't bite the hand that feeds you. And so what if Nikki decided to go for Mr. Dorian, the higher bidder, first? She had made a mistake and was willing to admit to it. She's admitting she did it out of money. And even though I really don't like the sound of that, I don't know, maybe I should give her a break. Stop judging her for all the wrong she's done. Then that whole demonic possessed shit from his midst started up again, or tried to. You two shut the fuck up too, stop judging her too. She may not be perfect, but she's not what you guys are making her out to be. She ain't perfect, I ain't perfect, and since I ain't one to judge, and neither are you guys. And now Michael felt better as he forced himself to deny just now having pictured himself speaking with demons living in his hands. Please tell me this stupid Stephen King shit ain't happening, please. Honestly, I think it sorta is. You shut the fuck up too. I still don't know where the fuck you exactly came in from, but I've accepted you this far. Although I meant to say shut the fuck up addressing me, but do continue with the narration if you please. Ahem. As Michael began to feel a bit at ease, as his mind cleared up of all the questions that were circling before, it was at that second the break in the equation came to him. Wait, they were trying to get me to turn on her. Why did I forget that obvious detail? Luckily, LeBron was apparently an antique collector and had some old 20s Art Deco rotary phone, so it took a while for Nikki to dial. Nikki, if they found me to be a liability and a risk, willing to kill me for it, what makes you think they won't feel that way about you? Nikki's eyes then lit up again with no bulbs, and this time busted. Michael, enough. No, Nikki, face the facts. You know too much. What leverage do you have on men like them to keep them from deciding to just off you, now as they wanted off me? Nikki looked flustered. She had no answer, and she seemed really pissed that she didn't. You know what else? Mr. Parsley's here in an alley, in a van, full of IRA commandos armed to the teeth, blurted out Michael as he also remembered that detail. What's that again? Cried out LeBron, feeling it was about time for him to get involved. Yeah, that's right. Plus that Parsley guy spent the entire time with me in the van, trying to convince me not to trust you. I mean, if he wants to openly do business, then why send in an agent to turn on you? Also, they wanted me to get you somehow to come out of the building before they decided to storm the place. Shit, I really should have brought this up the first minute I got here. Why didn't I? I really am a stupid moron. Nikki's jaw dropped as she squinted her eyes and was now at a loss trying to come up with a good excuse to continue trusting them. Nikki, you said nothing about this when you told me about the deal. Now you could split some of the dough my way. I was cool with that. But this is starting to scare me. And I don't like being scared, cried out LeBron as he paced back and forth frantically, having now gotten involved since learning how his home was in danger. Nikki then began to consolidate herself as if she had finally come up with a good reason to continue with the trust.